good morning, and welcome to the Talkin' Tomahawk podcast. It's the daily Atlanta Braves podcast. I'm Seth. You can check us out at talkintomahawk.com. Download the podcast, watch it on YouTube, Rumble, like it, love it, listen to it. Listen to Braves content on your way to work, working out, sitting on the toilet. Today, or however you consume your content, come on, we all use the toilet. We all use that time to research the Braves and to listen to content and scroll through TikTok to see funny videos your friends are sending you. So I know that probably most of you are looking at me right now as you're on the toilet. Let's enjoy that moment. Okay, today we're going to talk about David Fletcher and Orlando Arcia. Could David Fletcher overtake Arcia at shortstop this year for the Atlanta Braves? So David Fletcher was recently acquired from the Angels as a part of one of the multitude of trades that Anthopoulos made. He was wheeling and dealing, sending people hither and thither. Money was flying like it was one of those boxes where the wind blows, the air is blowing the money, and you got to grab all the dollars. That's what the last week has basically been like. Last couple of weeks for the Braves and Alex Anthopoulos. Once all the dust is settled, and I'm sure there's probably more coming, but where we stand right now, the Braves ended up with David Fletcher, and we've ended up with Jared Kelenic. Don't forget Aaron Bummer. Um, After all those trades, and we've taken on bad contracts, we unloaded bad contracts. We actually ended up spending more money than we've spent about 22 million more than we entered all of the transactions with. We covered that more, in our last podcast. I won't get too far into that, but what we ended up with was David Fletcher, and we ended up with Jared Kelenic, and we kept David Fletcher. These two guys are addressing two of the needs that we had, and shortstop was probably one of the least talked about needs for the Atlanta Braves entering this offseason. We have a good feeling about Orlando Arcia. He sort of surprised. He took everybody by surprise last year. When you entered the season thinking Von Grissom and Braden Shoemake. It's hard to say his name. Shoemake. You want to say Shoemaker, but it's Braden Shoemake. And when we entered the season with those two, allegedly competing for the starting job, and then Arcia gets the extension. He gets the 3 years. He gets the starting job. And at one point, he was injured, and Von Grissom was so bad. I think he was on pace for like negative 56 defensive runs saved at short that they didn't even send Arcia to a rehab assignment. They just brought him back. They're just get up here, work it out up here. We got to get Grissom out of the infield. It was a disaster, and Arcia was our guy, and he made the All-Star team. He had his best season offensively. Um, that being said, shortstop obviously there was number one. We needed a utility infielder. We got rid of Nicky Lopez. You need someone to fill in case of an injury, to give guys a day off, and they got to be better than Von Grissom was defensively. And that's David Fletcher fits that role. But if that was all we needed was why get rid of Nicky Lopez for $4 million and bring in David Fletcher, who's going to make more than Nicky Lopez, more than Orlando Arcia? Why would we do that? We could have just went out and brought in. You could bring in someone like Adrianza, a league minimum type player, just to play the role, of utility depth. And I understand this is a result of all of the trades that Anthopoulos had made, and maybe this was just trying to do the best he could with the additional money that we had to spend in order to get Kelenic. But I do think David Fletcher has a real shot at ending up as our starting shortstop this year, and I'm going to go into why. It's why. So just real quick outline of Fletcher in his career. His career slash is 277, 323, 359. So no power, basically. 359 slug. The other numbers are good. 323 is okay on base. It's not great, but it's good. better than a guy like Rosario last year. 277 career average. And Fletcher's had some. He's had some really solid offensive seasons. So said some bad ones too. um, but the career slash is not terrible. The interesting thing about his profile, Fletcher doesn't strike. He's less than 10% strikeout rate for his entire career. Over 2,180 plate appearances in his career, he's only struck out 208 times. So um, those are eye popping numbers in the modern game. He doesn't have home run power. He hits for average and good doubles numbers. So he does have some pop. It's not the kind that's gonna increase his slugging percentage to levels that tell us he's a good power hitter. But he has put up some good doubles totals in his career. He just doesn't have the home runs to add to it that other power hitters have, and thus mathematically his slugging percentage is lower. If you if you're not up on that, slugging percentage is your total bases divided by your total at bat. So home runs are the most valuable and the best way to enhance your slugging percentage because it's four bases in one swing of the bat. So um, the slugging percentages are going to look bad for guys who don't hit homers. Basic math. So in 2019, Fletcher played 154 games. He hit 319 with a 350 OBP, and he had 30 doubles that season. Um, you know, you would you'd be really happy with that. I think everybody would be pretty thrilled if you had a shortstop that hit 319, 350 OBP, especially in this lineup too, and had 30 doubles and was playing plus defensive shortstop out there. He played 157 games in 2021. He had 27 doubles. In 2020, during the COVID season, he actually finished 17th in MVP voting. So David Fletcher has had he actually turned that 2020 season into the current contract that he's on, and then since then the Angels have been filled with regret. So yeah, it's not Dansby Swanson here, but interesting stat in 360 career games, David Fletcher has struck out 149 times, just 149 strikeouts in 1,548 plate appearances. So, I mean, his strengths obviously are putting the ball in play, getting on base, and not hitting homers. But he does have that double power. So his defense, though. Let's talk real quick about the defense. He's got 42 career defensive runs saved. So that's over several different positions. Defensive runs saved is calculated as there's a lot of different metrics that go. Think about like outs above average is a range based calculation, and defensive runs saved factors in a whole bunch of different metrics similar to that, but they add if you look at Acuna's OAA, it's a lot worse than like his defensive run saved would be, but defensive run saved is going to include things like his arm, the value of his arm. And so it's a more comprehensive stat, and it tends to be, it needs a larger sample size to be correct or to be more accurate. But that all being said, David Fletcher's career defensive run save numbers in total 42, but again, that's over various positions. That's what I was getting at is it's position specific. So um, if you have a +1 defensive run saved at shortstop, that means you were one defensive run saved, one run better than the average major league shortstop that year. Um, it also is not an actual run. It's just a number that's generated through all these calculations. It doesn't actually mean he saved one literal run from touching home plate. It's just a kind of a score, and they call it defensive run saved. So I hope that makes sense. If you have a positive number, you're better than the average at that position. If you're negative, then you scored lower than average at that position. That's basically all that means. Um, that all being said, we'll run through the different positions he's played in where his defensive runs saved are. And I'm going to actually give these to you in a 135 game pace. So that way you can sort of imagine it over the course of a season, not a full season, but over the course of a good chunk of a season. This is just a number that Baseball Reference has set up for us. So to save me the trouble of doing any math, I'm just going to give this to you. He's plus 13 at second base, plus 7 at shortstop, 9 at third, and 16 in left field. 7 at shortstop is impressive. Over the course of 135 games, to consistently be 7 runs better, 7 points better than the average major league shortstop is very, very impressive, because the average major league shortstop is one heck of a shortstop. I mean, it's one heck of a ball player. It's one of the most demanding positions defensively, athletically. So to be an average major league shortstop is to be a really, really good defensive major league shortstop. So the fact that he's plus 7 says a lot about the quality of his defense. He only, somebody said he only throws 77 miles an hour, so he can't play shortstop. Yeah, I don't care about that. That's Dansby Swanson throws about that hard. So, and I think I'd seen Dansby at 77, 78. Last year he averaged 79.8. Um, Dansby's still one of the best defensive shortstops in the league by every metric. That's fast enough at shortstop. Like, if you can get to the balls, got a quick release. If you're throwing about 80, that's good enough to get it across the diamond to get somebody out. And realistically, can you tell? People who are telling me that 77 is not hard enough at shortstop for a major league baseball player, I want you to tell me that you can watch somebody throw a ball like Arcia at like 82 miles an hour, and you can watch someone throwing at 77 miles an hour, and that you can see the difference, and you can see someone beating those throws out consistently. You're full of crap if you do. If you're telling me that, I bet you couldn't even tell me which one was faster unless somebody showed you what the miles per hour were on those throws. So I'm not too concerned about that. Um, not concerned. Yeah. So OPS is, we're going to move back into a little bit of a comparison now. The OPS and your OBP, I'm sorry, OPS is your OBP and your slugging percentage added together. Your on base and your slug added together. Fletcher, as we mentioned, terrible slug for his career, 359, doesn't hit homers. Over his 6-year career, he's got that 359 slug. In fact, let me get the homers numbers for our man David Fletcher in his career. D Fletch, career homers over 6 years. He has 16 career homers over 2180 plate appearances. So that's 534 games with 16 dingers. So he'll run into one every now and then, but that's about all. 359 career slug. Since 2018, of players with at least 2,000 plate appearances, Fletcher has the 5th worst slugging percentage in all of baseball out of 155 players that qualified. Um, can you guess what Arcia's career slugging percentage is? Obviously better. I mean, we know Arcia's got way more power than David Fletcher. 379. Arcia's at 379. He's 20 points. Both of them suck at slugging. Just neither one of them are. It's just not in the game. Arcia has more homers, but he has less doubles. So as far as extra base hits go, um, we can take a look at there's 2000. We'll take a look at 2019 because they played similar games. 152 games for Arcia. He had 32 extra base hits in 152 games. 32 extra base hits with a 350 slug that year. And David Fletcher, by comparison, in 2019, Fletcher played 154 games, and with 30 doubles, he ended up with 40 extra base hits. So he had more, and he had a 384 slug that season. He also hit 290 with a 350 OBP, but a 384 slug that season. So even with just 6 homers that year, he still ended up with more extra base hits than Arcia, and that it seems to have been the case. If you go through their look at the back of their baseball cards, so to speak, and that's generally the case when these guys put full seasons together. In fact, we can just run down to their 162 game average. David Fletcher averages 30 doubles per 162 games and a total extra base hits, let's see, of 38. Now, if we hop over to Arcia's baseball reference, his 162 game average. Uh, he averages 15 homers, 22 doubles, and one triple per 162 games. So he's at 38. Both of them are at, they're actually both at 38. Arcia's got the 379 slug, and of course we're at 359, which we mentioned for Fletcher. Arcia's career OBP is 300. Fletcher's is, I think it was 327. No, 323. So 300 for Arcia, 323 to Fletcher. Fletcher with the 277 career average. Arcia is, I got too many tabs open, guys. Arcia is at 247. So he wins slugging, but not by an amount that would matter at all. And they both average the same amount of extra base hits per year. Where you do get a better glove with Fletcher. Um, you're going to get, not that Arcia is bad, but but listen, Arcia's career, his OPS plus is 79. It's actually worse than David Fletcher's. And I just, I'm not saying Fletcher should be the starting shortstop. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if Arcia opens the season the way he ended it last year, that Fletcher gets a chance. Especially considering how little this guy strikes out. You know, putting the ball in play that much with with Atlanta with that many guys on the bases, there's only good things are going to happen. And being able to get on base, if he can recapture the form that had him getting on base at a 350 clip, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer. That's a lot more opportunities that he'll be at the bottom of that lineup that he would be giving to guys like Acuna at the top of the lineup to drive him in. That's a lot better than having Rosario and Arcia at the end of that lineup with low OBPs. And so yeah, he'd be just we'd sacrifice a few homers, not even that many though. I mean, Arcia hit 17 last year. To get on base more, I think that would be an easy trade for Snit to make. And then possibly you're possibly enhancing your defense. And keep in mind, I know for some reason it feels like Fletcher is older than Arcia, um, but I don't think he is. And my my Fletcher page is frozen, so I can't see it right now. Arcia is currently 29 and 129 days. Let me refresh Fletcher. I think Fletcher's 29 as well. Um, his baseball reference page's ears must be burning, but they're the same age, so I can't pull it up. It's broken. It is unresponsive, so it's broken. You broke it. I broke it. So same age, a little better track record. Um, potentially a Yeah, I mean the thing is, the last few years, Arcia has trended the right direction, and Fletcher has trended the wrong direction. So there is that. There's a chance that Fletcher's not going to recapture what he was, and it's over. And he is just a utility guy. But just looking at their resumes, don't be surprised if David Fletcher ends up as a starting shortstop. Arcia Arcia struggled the last 2 months. He came back down to earth. A lot of people pegged him as a regression candidate just based on his career numbers, and they were right. I was one of them too. Um, just because it's just realistic. Like he wasn't going to continue the pace he was on in the first half of the season. He actually finished the first half with a 294 average, a 769 OPS, which is tremendously high for him, and a 345 OBP in the first half last year. Uh, the 425 slug is that's a lot for him for Arcia. He had 7 homers in the first half. So, and 11 doubles. And then in the second half, he actually had 10 homers and 14 doubles, but his slug dropped to 416. It's still right around the same range. Average dropped from 294 to 235. His OBP dropped all the way down to 297. Yeah, he was struggling last year in the second half. But again, if he's posting if he's posting that type of those type of numbers, David Fletcher is going to have to come in and earn his way. He's going to have to really put on a show to take that job. If Arcia's got a 92 OPS plus, Fletcher again, that's a reach for him too. So but there is a chance. Arcia just got worse as the season went on. 330. Listen to these batting averages, or better yet, we can do OPS. Um, I still enjoy a good batting average, but we can run OPS. So this is month by month for Arcia last year. April 911, May 801, June 699, back up to 812 in July, a little rebound right there. 759 in August, and then a 575 to close out the season in September and October. Yeah, that was a rough ending to the year for him. He hit 235 in August. He hit 200 in September, and it's like he had 19 hits in 104 plate appearances and 95 at bats in the final month of the season. So, if he comes out of the gate like that, David Fletcher, there's a chance. Anyway, this is no bold prediction, and it's nice that if and we don't want Arcia to struggle, but if he gets hurt, if you got Albies gets hurt, it's nice to know that there is a quality, a proven veteran player. David Fletcher, 29 years old, and we know what we're getting out of him. Going to play good defense. He's going to put the ball in play, uh, and it's definitely good depth to have. It's a nice option as opposed to Adrianza, right? I mean, you're going to feel better about Fletcher coming out than a guy like Adrianza. So Adrianza, how you pronounce that. So anyway, this is why David Fletcher does have a chance at ending up at some point this year as our shortstop. Um, Unfortunately, that's why both he and Arcia can't hit for power. So, all right, thanks for listening, watching. Don't forget to wash your hands.